Like, if I call you my brother, you know what it is. And breaking the code, I could be calm, cool, collective. If we start wilding, I'm changing the mode.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Harding Way. It's DJ Harding here, another episode of Conversation Corner. And today, got a special guest for y'all, a linebacker from Bentley University, a Massachusetts native. And his career at Bentley in 4 seasons has 16 and a half tackles for loss and 13 and a half sacks. Made the 2024 All Northeast First Team. Ladies and gentlemen, Joe Rivers. Joe, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, man. Appreciate you for having me.
Of course.
Super
Glad to
grateful.
have you.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, glad to have you. And of course, the big news, and we'll just get right into the questions here. You declared for the NFL draft. So,
Yes,
first
sir.
question on the board, let's just get it out the way. What made you declare?
Yeah, I think this has been a dream that I've always, thought about growing up, right? Just watching football with my family and everything. Um, and just, loving the game as I played it growing up, being young, and kind of, seeing myself progress as I got older. And so always having that dream, but not necessarily knowing, coming from a smaller town and everything, how attainable it might be. But then, ended up, playing pretty well throughout college and everything. Seeing it as something that, Lord willing, that's something that I can continue pursuing. So I'm just super grateful for the opportunity to say that I can pursue it in the first place,
Mm.
right? Um, but yeah, it's just something I've always wanted to do, and now it's something there that I'm saying I could, Lord willing, take advantage of and just keep working at it. So
Yeah. And then, of course, I'm going to ask a question that they usually ask most of these guys, and you'll probably get asked on your time preparing for the draft. What do you bring to an NFL team?
yeah, I think part of it, anytime that you talk to an athlete, right, that um, might be of NFL caliber is that, they're all athletic, they're all good at the game. I think one thing that kind of I think is important is just, the ability to use my leadership that I've kind of grown in over time, right? I know I'm coming from a smaller school, but I believe that, as I enter into that space, right, that sort of thing that I've been blessed with kind of naturally kind of occurs, right? And so growing into the space that I'm in. But, on top of that, just like being a person that people want to be around, right? Just being a good teammate, being, I'm not someone that's gonna put myself first. At least that's something that I continue to strive to be mindful and intentional about is, how can I love and serve others around me
Mm.
better, right? Which is something that I'm continuing to grow through, um, and continuing to see progress in. And that's something I believe that um, I think could be very beneficial to anywhere that I end up is just, being a servant.
Yeah, and then you mentioned the leader part. So, what do you think it takes to make a good leader?
Honestly, I think just what I talked about, right, is just having a heart of serving, right? And I think that comes with having humility, right? Recognizing, not necessarily saying like, okay, I'm gonna think less of myself, but I'm gonna think of myself less, right? And so
Mm.
recognizing that I've been, gifted with these things, and how can I use these to uplift those that are around me, and to put, ourselves in a better position to succeed as a whole. And so I think, having a servant kind of mindset, of just trying to make wherever you're at better, a better place, and uplifting those around you, and then also approaching that with humility, are big factors of leadership on top of, the things that you typically think of, right, with like the being vocal and everything, being a lead by example type of guy. But I feel like a lot of people might have those, but might not always approach that with the right heart posture. Um, but yeah, I think those are all, good qualities that kind of get thrown into that of what it takes to be a good leader.
And then you mentioned the small school thing, which is something, you tend to see. So do you ever how do you feel about those narratives though? Of like, since you're not a power four Division I guy, like, do you think that matters in your mind, or you think you're going to still prove to them that you should be there?
I think it's an interesting thing because you get to see a lot of great talent from, guys that played these schools, right? I mean, they're there for a reason, in most cases, right? And so these guys are guys that can play ball, that, have the measurables, have the athleticism, right? Um, and so, but what I've seen in playing right at the Division II level, there's a lot of great talent, um, and so, and just kind of being able to see like, okay, in terms of where I fit, right, my athleticism, right, is something that stands out, um, and so just like level of knowledge of the game and being like kind of like almost like an intangible sort of thing where it's like you kind of get a flow for things, right? And so if that's something that you have or something that you have grown in and kind of are able to bring with you, like I've always heard it said, like if you're good enough, they'll find you, right?
Mm.
So like I know you interviewed Hector, I know you've interviewed a bunch of guys, right? Like guys like that are just good at the game and that are athletic enough to hold up with these other athletes, right? I think again, like if you're good enough, they'll find you, and so it's really just going to take an opportunity, and I truly believe that I can prove myself.
I like that answer. If they're good enough, they can find you. That's a good quote. And then, speaking of finding stuff, film. That's something I like talking about with athletes. When you're in the film room, what do you look for?
Man, where do I start? I think so being at Bentley, right? Um, we've had a couple different coaching staffs and everything, but during our time there, we've always been very intentional about like one seeing tendencies. Okay, like when they're in this formation, what are they more kind of prone to do, right? Like um, different personnel, different down and distance, like different situations, like what are they prone to do, right? And then once you kind of get those tendencies, you're able to play a little bit faster, right? And so when you're able to play faster, you're able to play better naturally, and you're kind of able to just flow, like I was saying earlier. Um, and then when you think about like some other stuff, right? Like what tendencies, does each individual like? I go against a lot of offensive linemen, right? As a defensive end slash like jack linebacker, I'm looking at what does their stance look like, or what do they, how does their kick step look, right? What are they more vertical? Are they more 45? Are they more jump set? Um, what is their hand placement? Like all these little things that you kind of get to see as, what are their tendencies? What do they typically do? What have they done throughout the year and all that type of stuff. But yeah, it's just kind of like really nuanced things that you typically don't pick up on the first look through. It takes a little bit of time. You get to kind of get to know them better as you watch them more. So yeah, I'd say two biggest things would be tendencies in terms of offensively, what are they doing in different situations, in different personnel groups, that stuff. And then also like who I'm going against, what do they tend to do? What do they kind of fall back on later in the game, like all that type of stuff.
Yeah, I get that. And then you mentioned Bentley. So, of course, you're Massachusetts native, going to college. What made you choose Bentley?
Man, so Bentley's, a great school that has competitive athletics all around. And so when I was kind of looking, I was seeing, okay, I want a good education. I already known kind of going into it that I wanted to study about business. And so in terms of business schools, right, like you're hard pressed to find a better business school than Bentley, especially in the Northeast. Um, and so when you think about that, and then also the competitive nature of athletics, right? Like they're always competing for any 10 championships, both obviously with football, um, and all the other sports around you. And it's a really cool environment to kind of see how supportive everyone is of each other and everything like that. So that was a big factor, is just the community aspect as a whole, in terms of drawing me in.
And then, in the world of the transfer portal, and I think you know where this is going to go next. Did you ever think of leaving, though?
Honestly, I did think about it. Just kind of thinking about, what my, pursuit of the next level might look like. Um, and it took a lot of prayer and consideration going into it, right? Is like what ideally would make the most sense and what might be the best path, and how could this fit into what I want to do going forward, and what I feel like the Lord is kind of encouraging me towards. And so for me, recognizing that, in my last year, being a captain and everything too, going into my last year, like that's a big factor in terms of, how can I grow in my leadership as well while I'm still here, both there and off the field, right? With athletes in action and crew, like the two ministries on campus. um, or, already having like established myself and missing some time due to injury in years past, right? Um, and so like, what could I really do in this conference? And also like pursuing, like I want to win a conference championship, which we fell like just short this year. Um, playing some good competition and everything like that. And so, but finishing 8-2 and everything. But honestly, like wanting that as well was a big kind of factor. Like I want to win here as well. Um, but in terms of thinking, yeah, like okay, would I get a better look if I went to an FCS, maybe like a lower FBS school or whatever it is, right? Or how could I make an impact while I'm still here if I decide to stay? And so, yeah, just like the guys on the team, it was definitely hard to leave them, and then also just like wanting to win here
Mm.
were big factors. But it was something I thought about and prayed about a lot. But um, I think I made the decision I made for a reason, for sure.
Mm. And then you mentioned that final season. Just looking back on this season, like what is like maybe like some of like the highlights of the season for you, looking back on your final season?
Yeah, I think it's hard to pinpoint, certain moments because it was a very eventful year in terms of, like for me personally, um, thinking about like, okay, I'm approaching this different. Like I might have been a leader on the team before, but now, as a captain, like, okay, that's a different level of responsibility. And so getting to see how that kind of played a part into um, collectively how we handle things as a team and like, how I might have had an impact in that way. But then also like the fact that, it was so cool to see our offense explode the way it did this past year, man. Like they were putting up some points this year for the most part. And um, getting to see them eat this year it was really exciting because we had always had like the offense defense rivalry, right? Within the team, like a healthy rivalry, just making each other better and everything. And so seeing them eat this year the way they did was really cool. One thing I guess I could pinpoint is the last game of the year, St. Anselm. It was our senior day, and one of our wide receivers, Rashawn Bradford, he hit the 1,000-yard mark in that game. And so, at the end, we all celebrated together. We picked him up, lifted him up, and everything. It was a great moment, just seeing like our brotherhood and everything. Everybody coming together to celebrate each other, and so yeah, that was a really powerful moment for sure.
That's cool. I love your best moments is like pointing at your teammates. I appreciate that. And then one of the things you were in the running for a trophy was the Campbell Trophy, one of like the few 18, only one of 18 Division II finalists. So just what did that mean to you to be like honored or nominated?
Man, it was cool because I had gone into it this year and not even like that wasn't even a thought in my mind as to what I wanted for this year, right? Um, and so when Coach Saj had initially told me, um, and I had gotten an email from some administration as well. I was super humbled just because like, seeing that, being recognized for something like that is just, I was super grateful for that. And then also just thinking like, okay, like Coach Saj like addressed the team as a whole when we found out that I was a semifinalist, right? And so now it's like, oh dang, like this is cool, man. Like this is just like I'm super grateful to be in a spot to where like I can serve others. And then like seeing what I do, just like recognition for that is really cool. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't typically go into things thinking like, okay, like I'm gonna do this so I can get recognized for it and like do this and so you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
but just seeing like it's like a genuine it was just like genuinely humbling and like I was super grateful for that. Um just to see like, okay, what I'm doing really matters. You know what I'm saying? Like it makes a difference. And that was actually something I struggled with earlier on, is just thinking like, okay, um, and I was praying about it a lot. I was like, Lord, like, is what I'm doing impactful? Like, is it making a difference in some way? Because if it's all for nothing, then it's like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what am I really doing for real? But
Mhm.
just seeing that I was super grateful for that for sure.
Yeah. And then you mentioned the giving back thing. I saw that you helping the Boys and Girls Clubs as a kid who was a Boys and Girls Club kid. Like, what does giving back like mean to you?
I think, one thing um, that I was super grateful for growing up, because I actually went to the Boys and Girls Club when I was younger too. So, you know what I'm saying? We locked in with that.
Hey.
But so we, just seeing other people, and I hadn't thought about it at the time, but kind of seeing it in hindsight is like seeing somebody intentionally like giving their time sacrificially makes so much of a difference, right? And so like, yeah, people can give or they can like do things in passing and not even like form a connection through that. But when you like genuinely like, I don't know, when there's a connection that comes with it, it's just that much more powerful, right? And so a lot of times, like you never know who you're going to meet and what type of impact you might have on their life too, right? Like they might not feel loved in the situation that they're in, right? They might not feel like they're, you know what I'm saying, like that they're taken seriously or whatever it is, like that they're important or whatever it may be that they're struggling with, right? And so when you're able to love that person intentionally, um, and just give your time and attention and care for them, and just form that connection and friendship, right? Like that's such a powerful thing. And Boys and Girls Club are just random people that you meet, right? Like it doesn't matter. Like people are people,
Yeah.
right? And in what I believe, like we're all made in God's image, and so like we're all called to love each other. And so you know when you're able to do that, and you know it's super encouraging to be able to do it as well. But like when you're receiving that, it's a different level. You know what I'm saying?
And then I just like saw you helped out with football team. So on that side, are you giving them any like football advice when you're helping those kids out, or?
Yeah, for sure, man. Because you know, growing up, I think you know I've seen different coaches and everything like that, um, in different spaces that I've been in and everything, and so um, seeing that makes a difference, right? And that you know if you're able to speak life into these kids, right, and allow them to pursue what they want to do, um, you know that's a huge thing, and I think it can be really moving for them. But also just like teaching them different pointers and stuff like that, helping them elevate their game, right? Just lifting up the game of football in Massachusetts, right? Like it's
Yeah.
already picking up as you've been seeing, right? And so just wanting to continue that going forward and just give back to you know what I've received in earlier years and everything. I feel like it's a cool opportunity for sure.
Mm. And then, when the playing career is done, do you ever think about coaching football in any way or?
I've thought about it for sure. I've seen how because I have a lot of respect for football coaches because it's a really strenuous job, right? Like it takes a lot of hours, it takes a lot of energy, especially if you think about like you have a family, right? It's you're taken away from them for a certain period of time for a long period of time as well. So it's like it's a draining thing, and it's a really intricate thing that you know when you think of X's and O's, when you think of strategy, when you think of logistics, like there's a lot of things that go into it that that earn a lot of respect, right? And so you know, just seeing that side of things, I think it's pretty cool seeing how that's an option down the line that I've considered for sure. But yeah, I would definitely think about it going forward, you know, post career and everything like that.
And then I've heard the mention of God enough times that I definitely got to ask, what role does religion play in your life?
It's big, man. We could be on here for a couple hours if you, you know what I'm saying? Man, like the Lord has been very gracious and merciful to me. When I think of my faith journey, you know, growing up, I had been around the church and everything like that, just kind of hearing, being to services and stuff like that. But I didn't really believe like that. And just kind of like a brief testimony, I guess I'll give. Um, just growing up, you know, throughout high school, that's when I kind of started to revisit my faith, and I really started locking in during college, and when I really chose to give my life to Him. And so, seeing how He's worked in so many different areas, like in my heart, in seeing how He's worked in those around me, you know, through crew and athletes in action and like that, and then countless other spaces, right? And how he's, you know, recognizing how he's blessed me with different talents that I can use and stuff like that, and how I can, you know, speak in others' lives. And you know, when I think about kind of at like the foundation, right? When I think about how He loves us, how He created us to be with Him, and how like our sin kind of, you know, creates like this chasm that we can't close ourselves. Then it's like, wow, like I really think about how like the weight and the depth of that. And so, you know, hearing the gospel and hearing how from different mentors like Andrew Nilsson, for example, he's been a huge part of my life in that. And he runs a ministry on campus, but you know, hearing that The reason that we can have that relationship with God restored is through Jesus Christ, his life, his undeserved death, and his resurrection. Now we have an option because of that, to be rekindled, that relationship be rekindled with God. And so when I think about that and just how it's deeper than it's just like this level of depth of intimacy that we can have with him in terms of our friendship and our relationship with him, that he cares about every aspect of our life, whether that's football, whether that's school, whether that's interviewing people, right? Um, and so just seeing how he's worked in my life and everything like that has been really cool just to see. Um, and yeah, so that's kind of a brief synopsis of um, what I feel like the Lord has played a factor in my life for sure. Um, Especially learning to hand my sport over to him. That's been a growth journey for sure. But and just trusting him with whatever it is that he wants for me and for me. So but yeah, that's kind of my long brief answer for sure.
I like the long brief part, but speaking of the sport though, you gotta love a good answer though. I appreciate that you opening up. But speaking of the sport though, I got some more like fun popcorn questions for you before we close this out though. Question I love to ask people: what's your go-to pregame song? So like
Mm,
we're getting ready for a game, headphones are on. What's the first song we're listening to?
man. I feel like it depends on the game, but I
Mm,
think two that kind of come to mind first. The first one is "Made for This" by Alex Jean, and then the other one would be "Rewrite History" by Caleb Gordon.
okay, okay.
Um, I think they both kind of resonate with me in a way where it's like like I can be confident in this and what the Lord has for me,
Mm,
and they're very talented rappers as well. So, but on top of that, I guess "The Lord Will Provide" has been a big song for me. Um, I had gone to a Passion Conference in Atlanta um, last year, and that was a song that they came out with there, and so having learned that and everything, and hearing the truths in that song is really powerful. So
mm.
I say those three are definitely ones that I listen to.
Okay. And then Mount Rushmore style for this one. But can you give me some of your favorite teammates, like a top four favorite teammates?
Top four.
Yeah, we're gonna give some shout outs and throw some people under the bus, low key. I'm gonna be honest with you,
Yeah.
but
Okay. Okay.
we're gonna give some shout outs,
Uh,
low key.
I mean, I got to give I love all my teammates and everything. In
Of
terms
course.
of, would you say like in terms of like what
It's
as a player, as a person, what
it is honestly up to you. You
as a
take the
whole?
question.
Okay.
How I ask the question, I'm always like, I leave open interpretation. But top
Okay.
four.
I like that. I like that. um, I'd say I gotta go. I'll go, and these are in no particular order, just so we don't say we don't
Yeah.
get anything misconstrued. But I'd say top four. I gotta go. It's a tough one too. Um, I'd say E-Man Enda.
Okay.
He's a dog. Brother in Christ. That's my boy. Um, I'd say Brett Pullman, one of my dogs. He's a quarterback for us this year. He's a baller for real. Um, this is a tough question, man.
Hey, this
You're
is why I
making me
love it.
think.
This is why I love it.
The other two, I guess I'll say Wade Holden,
Okay.
my boy. Um, I was gonna actually live with him, so that's an easy answer. Um, and last one, I'll go. This one's tough, yo.
hmm
Yeah, I'll go with what did I say? I said E-Man.
Yep.
I said Brett. I said Wade.
Yep.
I'll
One
go
more.
I'll go I'll go Josh Campo.
Okay.
Josh Campo. Yeah, he's running back.
Mhm.
Um And no particular order, and those names could be substituted all around.
I tell you right now, Joe, every athlete I ask that question to, that's the hardest question they get asked every time.
Man,
I ask
I'm
about
sure.
film, pregame songs, everybody has all their answers. Then I'm like, your favorite teammates, and everybody's gotta think and be like, ooh, because
You know what I'm saying?
there's always someone you have to unfortunately throw under the bus. There's someone's gonna watch and be like, man, I didn't get mentioned every time.
Right,
It's
right.
great. I love it. I love that question. But then on the other side, now we're gonna get a little different. Same order, but three in a sense. If you can invite three NFL players to a dinner, who you invite?
Mm, current.
Current, past, present. We'll do it like this. I'll give you one current table of three people and a past table of three people. That way, make it get a
Okay,
little
yeah. So
better.
we can. Okay,
Yeah.
current. Current. I'll go. I'll go. C.J. Stroud.
Okay.
Uh, Hassan Reddick.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, nah. I'm gonna take him out. I'm gonna go. C.J. Stroud, Von Miller,
Okay.
and Saquon Barkley.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like it'd be a good time. And just like being surrounded by greatness. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
um, yeah, just chopping it up. And
Yeah.
then for retired, man, I gotta say Tom Brady, right? Like GOAT. Feel
Yeah.
me? Like a lot to learn from him.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Feel me? I'll go Lawrence Taylor and I'll go Aaron Donald. Man, I watched a lot of film on them boys, bro.
That's
And
ideal.
yeah, and they seem what I'm saying, they seem like fun guys and everything. So I feel like it would be a good time for sure.
Yeah.
Hanging out with some greats and learning from them.
Mm. And then last question before I let you go, Joe. Who inspires you?
Man, uh, who inspires me? You mean like a live person
Well, I mean,
that's walking this?
yeah, sort
Because
of.
I go out like my answer is gonna be Jesus, right?
Yeah, I kind of like. I was like, yeah,
But
It's implied a live person. That's why I asked the religion question. I was like,
right, right,
who you go?
right.
Because I had the question. I was like, all right, I'm going to ask the religion question now. So when we get to that question, we can usually shout out the live person because that's usually
Right, right.
where
If we're
people
talking like a
go.
physical
Yeah,
on earth human being right now. um, Shoot, I'll say, hmm, that's a lot of good people out here, bro. I don't know. Um,
I mean, you can give a couple shout outs. You don't have to just leave it to one person.
yeah, I think again, Andrew Nielsen has been a great mentor for me. I got to shout out my mom and pops, obviously. I feel like that's implied, but I'll say them.
Yeah.
And I'll go with them, and then Kevin and Josh from Charles River, my church. Man, Jua, Will, all the elders, right? Like, there's just so many people I could name, bro. That I learned from and everything. Another guy that I want to shout out. He was coaching with us this year, but he was a player last year. Is Matt Severance.
Mhm.
Um, and he went through the whole process I'm going through right now last year, and he ended up getting a mini camp at Kansas City,
Oh,
and then ended up, with a contract offer for Montreal, the Canadiens,
mm,
or I don't know if it's the Canadiens, Alouettes maybe. It's like a CFL team.
yeah.
Canadians, I think it's hockey, but so he ended up getting an opportunity with them, but he decided to head back, coach for a year, and do ministry with us, which was cool.
Mm.
Um, and I believe he's trying to continue playing now, but seeing how he actively surrendered that over, and went with his convictions was really inspiring for sure. But man, again, the list could go on for real, but yeah, there's a lot of people that you can learn from for sure.
Mm. Well, all right, Joe. Thank you for coming on, man. I appreciate talking to you. I feel like this was a lot of fun. So thank you for coming on, man.
I appreciate you for having me, man. I'm just super excited to chop it up with you and everything.
Yeah,
And yeah, appreciate you.
appreciate it. But ladies and gentlemen, this was Conversation Corner. Thank y'all for watching. As I like to say, ain't no like the Harding way. Peace.